Welcome everyone to this section on naive Bayes' algorithm and NLP. So in this section of the course, we're going to begin a discussion on using raw string text for machine learning models. And this idea in general of being able to extract useful numeric information from raw string text data is known as natural language processing. It's really the ability for computers and algorithms to read in something like an email, a text, a movie review that is formatted in raw strings, and then somehow convert that to numbers that the computer can then understand and work with for the purposes of machine learning. Now, we'll begin with a discussion on the naive Bayes algorithm and why it's so well suited for natural language processing. Often, when you read online about naive Bayes for machine learning, it's pretty much always associated with natural language processing. And that's because it just naturally works really well with the idea of count vectorization for raw string text data. Now, we'll also expand on this idea of extracting features from text by talking about term frequency inverse document frequency vectorization of raw string text data. And that will actually open the door for us to realize that we can use any supervised classification algorithms on this text data after we've extracted the features on it. So after that, we'll go through an example of text classification as well as have a project exercise and solution walkthrough for you. Now, something to keep in mind is that this particular section is focusing on supervised learning with raw string text data, which means all the text data that you see throughout this section has already been labeled. For example, we'll have movie reviews that are already labeled as a positive review or a negative review. We'll have string tweets that are labeled as positive, neutral, or negative. So this entire section is still falling under the supervised learning category, meaning that the data is required to be labeled. Later on in another section, we'll discuss how to perform unsupervised learning on raw string text data where you do not have the label. But first, we would have to learn about things like the idea of clustering. Now, it's really a lot more common that raw string text data is not labeled, so just keep that in mind as you go through this section. We're dealing with a pretty specific type of task for raw string text data, where it already has been labeled by someone. Okay. Let's get started by learning about naive Bayes. I'll see you at the next lecture.